Hey there, welcome. This is Kathy at Nothing So Strange. Welcome to my channel, and if you've been here before, welcome back. Today I am doing a hashtag What Made Me Do It, which was created by Dragonfly Dilly, and I believe it's her first hashtag, and it's got really fun prompts. And I'm also, I've watched a lot of responses to this. I'm, again, late to the game. And in the prompts, the final prompt was create your own, and I really liked the create your own prompt that Tamipie came up with. So in a way, this is also a VR to Tamipie because I've stolen her prompt. So I will get to it. All these prompts are about why we bought the decks that we bought, and I will put all the prompts in the description. The first prompt is Tarot Tube made me do it. And I mean, there's a sense in which Tarot Tube always makes me do it. I tend to be, with some exceptions I'll talk about later, I tend to be kind of obsessive about getting my decks. I'll think, I like this deck, and I'll go watch a whole bunch of flip throughs and commentaries about it. And generally I don't buy until I've seen every single card. So yeah, Tarot Tube actually influences me to buy everything that I buy. But when I was thinking about how to get around that for this prompt, I thought about the Somnia tarot. And Somnia, again, I saw Somnia and the Somnia Illustrated all over Tarot Tube, but what was different was that I saw an interview with the artist Nicholas Bruno, and in it he was talking about his experiences, lifelong experiences with oh great, now I've forgotten the name of it, sleep paralysis, and how this is, tarot, and he grew up with tarot. I think he said he has a story about seeing a tarot deck in his grandmother's basement when he was young. And I shouldn't be rushing past showing you these boxes, because it's just so beautifully made, both of them. But yeah, he made these not just as tarot decks, but as a response to his lifelong sleep paralysis, which is just nightmarish. And so that reeled me in. I've known quite a few people close to me who have had problems with sleep paralysis, and I consider myself very lucky that I have not. Dreams are bad enough as it is without being paralyzed in them and attacked by demons or what have you. So yeah, Tarot Tube. It wasn't just the flip throughs. It wasn't just the side by sides of the original and the illustrated, but also seeing the interview with him. And this morning I went looking for the channel where I first saw that interview so I could give them credit for having such a good interview, and I cannot find it, which is a shame. I would like to listen to the interview again now that I've had these for a while. They're just brilliant. I have been trying very hard to not, and I think it's might have closed down now, I don't know, but I was trying very hard to ignore the Kickstarter for the updated version and the Oracle. Where'd my moon go there? There we go. I really love in the illustrated how he made some changes, like the different moon. You can kind of see more intentionality the idea behind the image and the illustrated. And I know the new version is borderless, and that's so tempting to have the slightly larger images. Oop, we're in different orders here. Oh well, I will just keep on out of order. Okay, so anyway, I feel like by now everybody's seen these decks, but that is my response to prompt 1. Tarot Tube made me do it. The second prompt is my heart made me do it, which I have at least one best friend. He's made comments about my cold dark heart, so whenever a prompt asks me to talk about feelings and hearts and stuff, I'm like, ooh, maybe that's not for me. But actually, that's not true. I could think of a deck that definitely I got because it just really plucked my heartstrings, and that is Oracle of Mystical Moments. And then I had to go back and get the tarot to go with it later. This is just so dreamy, such a fantasy. I've said in videos before, when I first started looking for decks, I did not realize what a huge problem counterfeits were. And the Oracle, oh, this has extra cards. Look at those. The Oracle caught my eye, and so I bought it and ended up with a counterfeit and was a bit broken-hearted. And right now I have those cards collaged to a door downstairs in the shop because they were too pretty to throw in the bin, but you know, I couldn't really use them as tarot, as oracle cards. But like I say, these are just so dreamy, and they do tend to get an emotional response in me. Just so creative and just so evocative. I know everybody has their preferences. I'm not a keywords person, I'm a titles person, so I really appreciate that these have these really enigmatic, mysterious titles. And the guidebook tells the stories and explains what's going on. And, sorry about that. But I like having it not all spelled out on the card. Mermaid's love, like a bird, pure nature. Just beautiful. And it's such a good reader. Both these are. I'm not talking much about the tarot, but I think it's just Look at that moon. It's just wonderful. Okay, so, oh man, look at that. So, that's my heart making me do it. And so there, my heart is not cold and dark. Now the next one, next prompt, is a little easier for me. And in fact, I couldn't choose between two decks, so I will show you both. The next prompt is, my head made me do it. And there are definitely two decks here that fit that. They are very, very different. The first one is, I'm going to do these one at a time, the Hexen 2.0. I kept hearing excitement about how this was going to be reprinted. And what in the world is the Hexen 2.0? And then I saw people flipping through the earlier versions and thought, okay, I have to get that. Yeah, I live in my head a lot more than I live in my heart, I think. Should I say that out loud? I don't know. But this, there are so many things in there that I need to look up, and there are so many things that I am really familiar with, and I love that kind of combination. Some of this reminds me of when I was writing my master's thesis, and hang on a second here. Sorry about that. When I was writing my master's thesis, and I wrote it about Grateful Dead and Deadheads, and how the organization had taken on a quasi-religious structure, which is not to say it was a religion or a cult or anything. It's just pointing out that there are certain elements to a religion, charismatic leadership, foundational myths, rituals, covenantal economic activity, etc., etc. And these show up in places that are not religions. The people that pioneered the idea used it to understand people's devotion to, what do you call them? MLMs, the multi-level marketing organizations like Amway. Same thing. And so I applied that to Deadheads. It fit really well, but you know, the Merry Pranksters, Ken Kesey had a lot of influence on that. Timothy Leary had a lot of influence on that. So that showed up, and but also though I taught classes on media and society before, and early development of the internet, and so a lot of the ideology behind that is on these cards. And the Unabomber manifesto was a wild ride. And so there was a lot here that really spoke to me. William Gibson, how much did I inhale his books when he was first publishing them? They really actually influence how I interpret society today. And then there's a lot of stuff here that I don't know about. You know, I might have heard about the name, but I don't know anything about it. And there's some things that I was like, I don't even know what this is. So, Utopia is a social theory. Love it. So it echoes some things I know about, and, oh boy, IBM and I have a relationship. IBM paid for my undergrad degree. I got the company scholarship. Thank you, IBM. And so it's kind of upset. This was named for the founder, Thomas J. Watson. I was kind of upset when I saw the pictures of him hanging out with Hitler. I don't know. Yeah. So many things in here resonate. So much still to learn about it. It's a study deck for me. I have, oh God, Tesla, he's another one. I don't know if I'll ever be able to actually read with it because I'm still very much in the studying stage, but it is just amazing, fascinating. The only thing I don't like about it, if you're a deck sniffer, man, this new version, it's kind of chemical-y. I don't know. What's sad about that? Now, radically different. My head made me get it. The Sola Busca. You know, I'm a researcher. I'm a nerd that way. So, knowing that there's a original, you know, a first known complete deck out there, yeah, I gotta have that. So, check my framing. Had to get that. And again, this is still in the study deck phase. I haven't read with it yet because it's tarot. It kind of fits the system that I read with. But the myths and the historical figures and inner jokes and whatnot are all so different, and so many, you know, okay, yeah, I know about Nero, I know about some of these people, but so many of the historical figures, I don't know who they are. So I'm reading the guidebook that came with, and I need to get a better book to understand it. I don't know why I'm flipping the cards over like that. It is so incredibly beautiful. And I don't have a lot of pip decks. And these are illustrated pips. One of the other attractions for me was that this almost certainly influenced Pamela Coleman Smith when she made the RWS. And so I had to have it. I had to study it. I need to get more free time so I can actually get in there and study it. But just beautiful. And I mean, there's, you know, there's definitely some big signs that Pixie saw this deck. So that is the second entry under My Head Made Me Do It. My head makes me do a lot, which is nice. It's nice if I have my head influencing me to buy beautiful decks like that. Next prompt, the title made me do it. This is, like I say, it wasn't just the title. I had to look at flip throughs and this, that, and the other before I bought it. But I think the Southern Gothic is the closest entry I have for the title making me get a deck. I have the deck, and I also have the Haunts expansion in here, and I am sorely tempted by the new version of like the expanded Haunts deck, and so tempted, but from the South. I've lived most of my life in the South. Brief stint up in Massachusetts and very brief stint in Baltimore. 4 years in Massachusetts. But yeah, you can take the South out of the girl. Yep. You cannot take the South out of the girl. You can take the girl out of the South. So when I heard Southern Gothic, and I've discussed this with friends before. My friend Erica was sharing something. What was it? I think the family, we just found out we owned all these grave sites. And my aunt and uncle that had moved very far away from Virginia said, can you deal with this? And so I said, okay, I'll deal with this. And had a buyer, showed up to do all the paperwork to sell these grave sites. And unbeknownst to me, the two sisters who were looking for grave sites to bury one of their parents, were feuding. And so I got there just as they're calling the police on each other. Wow, yeah, I don't want your people laying up next to my people for all eternity, so I have to walk away. And it's just like, yeah, the South is just kind of like that. You know, the South is Gothic, and these things just happen. You wake up in the morning, and you're like, I don't really want to wake up every day in a Faulkner story or a Flannery O'Connor story or something, but there you are. So, I didn't talk at all about the cards, but Southern Gothic. I love it. Had to buy it. Next, the artwork. I showed a couple of these cards, I think in my last video. I just got this for myself for my birthday. And number one, if you just want a rapid shipping experience, order this deck. Everybody I know of who's gotten it has gotten it in just a couple days, and it's coming from England. I don't know how that's possible. And also, I'm going to pull these really close to the camera because it is almost impossible to capture how incredibly vibrant this is, and to capture the impact of the effect of the gilding. And I should say, this is Wild Enchantments. It comes with a really, this is beyond a chonky book. Look at this thing. This is 270 some pages, 280 pages of beauty and explanation. So many pages per card. And it's about the plants. I should explain it a little bit. But it's about indigenous plants, and I would assume that would be England indigenous. See, some I know over here and some we don't have. But I saw a couple of the cards. This was a case where I saw a couple cards on the flip through, and I was just gasping at how beautiful. In fact, I think they said on the flip through that they were gasping when they first saw it. And since I just got this, I haven't had a chance to learn all the plants. Each card has plants and animals, and look at that spider web there. There are a lot of birds. Look, here we have sheep. Here we have butterflies and fox. And so it is just the most beautiful. Look at the dandelion. I love dandelions. I could live in any one of these cards. Look at the little badger. So, I do tend to buy all my decks because of the art, or most of my decks because of the art. If I hate the art, then I can't do it, but the little bunny. But this has to be the most beautiful ever. Okay, so we're up to prompt 5. The artwork made me do it. I'm taking my time. I just expanded my storage and I don't have to worry about my phone cutting me off in 20 minutes. So, prompt 6, the hype made me do it. That's a tough one. I am a contrary human. And I am just the sort of person who, if something's really hyped, I'll take against it very often. And think, oh, well, I'm not going to like that. So, this was hard to figure out. But then I thought of Bonefire. And it wasn't even the hype about the deck. It was the hype about the book. People kept saying, oh, the second edition, the book is so good. The book is so good. And so I was a little interested. And finally, I found one of the Facebook groups, somebody saying, oh my gosh, Amazon has it for, it was some ridiculously low price. It was less than I can get it for wholesale. So I just kind of went ahead and got it because I'd heard the hype about the book, and I think it was cheap because they were all damaged. But whatever, less than wholesale. I got it anyway. Didn't send it back. A little annoyed. But now that I have spent a lot of time with this and I have seen flip throughs of the first edition, I'm a little torn about which edition I like best. I like not having the repeated card names. The first edition has borders, and it also has the card name written on the border, and I think that's a little tedious of them. I like this. You know, sometimes it's hard to find the card name, but once you get familiar with it, you don't really need it anymore. I've seen some people who got the first edition who didn't like this edition because some of the card is cut off, and I do like the first edition, the pictures being bigger, and then some of the pictures have been changed. And I like some of the first better and some of the second better. So I might end up also getting the first edition someday because they are just so very different. but I am so glad I started with this one because the hype about the book is so on target. I love Gabby Angus West's writing style. She has such a strong voice, and she talks about the creation of the cards. She talks about the meaning of the cards. She's just very open and honest, and she's given me so much to think about, like her interpretation of the Four of Coins. I love this. The making of the Four of Coins was very personal. The man in the tree is my husband. I did not crown him as one of the kings of the deck, but had I, he would have been a blend of all the royal cups with the Wandy vibe. I do not see the card, getting back to the Four Coins, as depicting a miser, but rather a person whose position in life and their assumed responsibilities has trapped them in a prison of their own making, but not of their own choice. I mean, how amazing is that? Out of a sense of adventure, he climbed into the tree to have a look at the view and to see where his path was headed. On the way up the tree, he found some financial rewards, a house, a car, a wife, a family. He's very pleased to have them and climbs higher still. Before long, he's reached the top, but finds that the branches above him are spindly and cannot hold his weight. The rest of the coins are out of his reach. Besides, if he stretches for them, it's risky and he may fall. Then who would look after his riches and responsibilities? So from his perch, he guards his tree full of riches. A fire lit below warms his bare toes and wards off others. The man realizes he is now stuck. So, the hype about the guidebook, I mean, the hype about the deck, so many decks are hyped, but I tend to sit up and take notice when a guidebook is hyped. And in this case, you know, I love this deck. I love the energy. I love the colors. I love the tattoo feel of it. Oh, I love her. Queen of Wands. But really, it was the very, very accurate hype about the guidebook that drew me in. Okay, next, my dark side. My dark side made me buy a deck. There's another one that was a little bit tricky. Not that I am sweetness and light or anything, but thinking, you know, I'm not necessarily drawn to decks that are going to tell me that the world sucks. And the world is a dark place, and there are dark things in humans. I know that. I didn't need my cards to tell me that, but I thought of two here. I'll start with the Fantod pack. I love Edward Gorey. I saw some of his work in a book I got when I was maybe 10 or 11 and running a super high fever. It is amazing when you're running a fever as a child and you see images, how they stick with you for life. Edward Gorey and Mark Chagall, never shook either one of them off. And so, you know, in a way, this could also be an inner child deck for me, because it certainly makes me think of childhood. But it's, if you know Edward Gorey, you know that he has that dark but hilarious, absolutely hilarious approach. And so these, I'm showing you the cards first in case you're not familiar with this. And, you know, there's some things that look normal. Yellow bird. There's some things that look like they might be dark. Limb, child, ladder, but it's gory. Spoiler, they're all dark. And they all have these hilarious but dark keywords. So
the effigy. August, a sexual problem assailed honor, unpleasant secrets, amnesia, broken heart, broken hopes, a misalliance, rashness, yaws, clouded mentality, abrasions, financial losses, an accident in a stadium. And they are all like this. They are all dark. March, loss of teeth, forged letter paralysis, Yellowbird. Saturday, true love thrown away, peak, foot trouble, mania. Barratry, not sure what that is. Accident on a ladder, indiscretion, bone disease, thwarted ambitions, poison. And so, I mean, it's hilarious, but it's a dark deck. It's my dark side laughing at it. And then conjure cards. The second one I chose for this prompt. It's not really a dark deck. Gosh, I love this. I haven't. I know I've shown this briefly, but I haven't done a good job of it. It feels rough. It's really nice to feel. They made it feel like it might be, you know, sawdust or wood or something. And it looks like an old stained box. That's so cool. So this is dark in the sense that a lot of old fortune telling cards are dark. Not so much the Lenormand, but things like the Gypsy Witch, and other cards like that. And sorry, I know some people US say consider Gypsy a slur, and in the UK it's a more mixed bag, but it's the name of the deck. Anyway, so a lot of fortune telling cards are very dark, and that makes sense given the places and times that they came out of. And I think of this as dark sometimes because the spades in particular are dark. And these are some dark cards here. And they're first in the deck, first in the guidebook. And so you start, look at the Joker. There's two Jokers. One's a dog, one's a cat. But you start reading the guidebook, and if you read it straight through and you start with the spades, then you're immediately hit with the Ace of Spades, the Cradle, the Death card, an empty baby cradle. Oh, that's like dark. To dream of a birth or to rock an empty cradle is a sign of death. When upright, it means death, an abrupt end, or a sudden change. Depending on surrounding cards, this can be metaphorical or literal. I've seen it be right about both. The author, I should say, is Appalachian and is using interpretations he grew up learning about. And so for the spades, we've got a broken bottle, a broken trinity, a hollow acorn, a quilt square. You're like, a quilt square? How can that be dark? Oh, it's patterned after the coffin star and the star and crown square. Yeah. So even the quilt is dark in this. Got a coffin, a blood drop. Now, if you look at the rest, you've got Morning Glories, persistent. You've got the black bear, the chief of the animals. Good social gatherings, short time, house and home, lovers, church window. So you have many, many pleasant things. The fireplace, the center of the home, luck and wishes for the wishbone, heralds of spring, the trillium. Trillium are so beautiful. And so, overall, it's not a dark deck, really. But I do think that, you know, seeing walkthroughs with the spades featured first is what drew me to it. That's the broken bottle. The hollow acorn. Morning glories, the snake, and owl. So I think of it as maybe not even a dark deck. There's your drop of blood. But certainly not a... Oh, look at the mole. Not a deck of all sweetness and light at all. So, that was number 7. My dark side made me do it. And then next is my inner child made me do it. And oh, daggone, I didn't get that one off the shelf. Alright, oop. Hang on a second. I think I can reach this. Whew. Luckily, it was on top. Oops. Carlotydes. And right now, I'm going to give a shout out to everybody who can use a cloth while they're talking and not scooch it back and forth constantly. I don't know how y'all do that. Anyway, Tarot de Carlotydes. I've already ripped the box. And what a beautiful box it is. This is another one that I accidentally bought a counterfeit before I understood. I had to run back. And, oh, there's the ripped off piece. Run back and get a real one the instant I realized. But this one, and I think I've said this before, and I'll say it again. One of the things that drew me to this deck is all the Alice in Wonderland references. Again, I feel like it's morning and my house faces east, so I feel like the bright light is changing some of the color out of the cards, but you see your little Alice's. And a lot of other funny references. I mean, there's a Klimt reference, and there's just such whimsy here. I mean, look, the trees are their tails. Look at the Hierophant having tea with a rabbit. Here we have the 6 of Cups, and again, tea with a rabbit. But yeah, I've said before I don't do inner child work. But if you want a deck that makes the little kid in me, that's a reference to an old movie star, Hedy Lamarr, maybe, somebody like that. Well, there we have Alice again. So it isn't a deck I use for inner child work. Oh, look, we've got the Princess and the Pea with the white rabbit. It definitely makes my inner child sing and giggle. Look at these guys with the unicorn horns tied on. So yeah, Carlotydes, I have so many. Summer. So many favorite. Look. 10 of Pentacles. Look at that dragon guarding his treasure. My only... Oh, and David Bowie is the magician. My only regret about this deck is that it doesn't come with a... look at that tower. A guidebook that is specific to the deck. And so I would love, love, love to know what was in the artist's head. With all these unusual choices. And you know, some of them are very RWS, but not most. Alright, so that was Inner Child. Next is number 9. Impulse made me do it. And after talking about how I don't tend to buy impulsively, now I'm going to turn around and show you some decks that I bought impulsively. This is the first one. That one, I don't know if I would have even looked at it so much, except it's a very fabulous deal on it. New, not even used, but new. It's a Sacred Web, written by Janie Wee Brown, illustrated by James Brown IV. That's a mother and son combination. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody do a walkthrough of this one. The guidebook is fantastic. It explains, it's really thick. 240 some pages. And it explains where the deck came from, which is something they created together when the son was recovering from a traumatic brain injury. And it talks about all the changes they made, of which there are considerable. The cards don't have names on them, and they have renamed just about everything. The Fool is the Leap, the High Priestess is the Oracle, the Empress is Grace, the Emperor's Majesty, the Hierophant's the Teacher, etc. They've turned the court cards into Student, Scout, Source, and Seer, which I think it's obvious enough that I can keep it in my head, actually. That's cool. They removed gender from the cards. And they renamed the suits. And the end of the guidebook is fabulous too. There's information about the numbers and those correspondences, and symbols. Yeah, so animals, mantras, bridges, chakras, colors, etc. There's also pages giving you mantras, explanations of the animals, so a lot of mantras for each card, and then explanations about the elements: earth, air, fire, water, associated with each card. So just an amazingly good guidebook. Oh, I love this box. And then the cards themselves, they have a my first impression when I got them was that these have a bit of a wild unknown feeling to them. I'm going to zoom in a little closer so you can see the details. I really need to spring for one of these adjustable cameras. Like I said, the majors have the numbers on the cards, but they don't have titles. And I love this. I was really startled by how much I love this deck. It is still, because it is so different than my other decks, it's still pretty much a study deck for me. You'll hear the beeping truck on the street. I absolutely adore the moon. And look at that sun. And this is an extra card. Oops. Oh, we can't let the monkey go by. A lot of animals. And they do, for the court cards, they do put the words on. So anyway, here I am doing an entire flip through. Whoa! Okay, maybe not. Oh, but you have to see that guy. So, this one was completely under the radar for me, and if it wasn't for stumbling across it at the good price, it wouldn't have happened. But yeah, impulse buy, that totally worked out. Okay, so that's my first impulse buy, and I have another one. And this is one that I have shown a few times at least. That I absolutely also adore. That is Goblins and Gardens. This just showed up on, I think, Facebook Marketplace locally. I'd never heard of it before. It was a place I could drive by on my way home and get it. It was a good price, and the person who got it from the Patreon. And so there were extras, tote bag, and look at those packs. Tote bags and enamel pens, and I don't even know, stuff. A lot of stuff.
But the maker during lockdown had a Dungeons and Dragons monster manual, and I think he found a garden catalog in a ditch somewhere. I might be making that part up, but I think that's how it went. But he collaged them together with the idea, and I adore this, that the campaigns are over. The Dungeons and Dragons campaigns are over. And the monsters have gone home, and they are working in their gardens. And the guidebook has just these brief little entries about what's going on. Let's see here. For those cards, Justice. Every storyteller puts their finger on the scale. Eventually the hand is lifted. When the boots comes up, the blended blades of grass check back into place. So sometimes rewilding is slow and peaceful. So for the majors, you don't always get as much about the plants. And with the minors, you tend to get a little bit more about the plants and or the monsters. Like here, for the Eight of Swords, we know that we've got a great ape and spleenwort. Seven of Swords, Minotaur, and Silver Break Fern. So, I tend to, well, here's one. Here's a Seven of Cups. And so, what order are we in? Swords, Wands, Coins, Cups at the end. Alright. Seven of Cups, Lizard Man, the Cobweb House Leaks. Oh, and the Eight of Cups. That's handy. We have, oh, these are not well shuffled at all, are they? That's handy though. Living Stones, Crocodile. And the Nine of Cups, we have a Boleth, I don't know that one, and a Hedgehog Aloe. And then the little stories are, you know, so beautiful. Lizard Man must make decisions for his garden in the high hills. All the cobweb house leeks dazzle, but which one to plant? At least the options have distracted him from his horrible memories of feasting on humans. What was that all about? A terrible daydream, no doubt. You find yourself in a fool's paradise with life presenting several options to you. Do you fancy one or a few? Avoid muddling illusion with imagination. So, second really good impulse buy. And I have gone nearly an hour now, which is astounding. So I'll do my last one really quickly. This is the one that I got from Tamipie. And she added, "Your declutter made me do it." And I have shown this once before. This is the Mayan. Or I'm sorry, it's not the Mayan, it's the Xultun
Xultun, but it's Mayan. Pull this away for this. And this, I think I'm gonna, I see, she's out the Mad Witch and Sandra at Spirit of Avalon and Tamipie have all recently done videos on used decks, and I might, oops, we're running out of, we are running off the page, aren't we? I might join in on that tag. I got a bunch of decks from somebody in a Facebook group, and this was one of them, and I cannot get over how much I love this deck. I think he thought I was gonna like some of the other ones more, and really they're all fabulous decks, but this is the one that is just speaking to me. And you know, I am a sucker for decks that all run together like this. Maybe I'll do a whole walkthrough of it sometime, but I am already at an hour now. So this is the Xultun. I think it's out of print now. This is an earlier edition. I'm incredibly lucky. There it is, 1976. And there's the spelling, Xultun. Incredibly lucky to have gotten this. But anyway, thank you very much, Dragonfly Dilly, for creating this tag, and thank you, Tamipie, for adding that last prompt. Let me talk about the Xultun again. And this was Kathy at Nothing So Strange, and if you made it through this whole hour, thank you for sticking with, and have a lovely day.